When you think about the last year of your life, what have been the experiences that have been most energizing to you and why? Who have been the people who you felt most energized around and why? What are some of the moments that you are most proud of from this past year that you want to take into future years, right? Like if you could keep doing that or having those experiences, what would that experience be if you could just like put it on repeat?
Welcome to the Next Best Thing podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Cline-Thomas. Now, I'm here to help you create strategies to navigate career and life transitions. And as we like to say around here, a pivot and a plan B are not required. Now, before we dive in, go ahead and help your girl out. Hit subscribe so you'll be notified about new episodes as they come out. I can tell you we have so much exciting stuff in store. Also, do you know that we have a new newsletter that's coming out in October? A bi-weekly newsletter that I'm calling Next Nuggets, that's sharing the gems from this podcast and additional resources to get you again from where you are to where you hope to be. To sign up for that, just go to the website, thenextbestthingact.com. Again, it's the name of the podcast, ACT, those are my initials.com. The next best thing, ACT.com. Scroll to the bottom, you'll see a newsletter. Click on that and just put in your email. It'll be a bi-weekly newsletter. Now let's get into this episode. You know, for those who are regulars, you've heard me say your next is within reach. And I say it because I believe it wholeheartedly. I really believe that you have all the goods you need right now to get you to your next. But sometimes we don't even know where to begin. We haven't really considered our specific expertise, or as my guest today calls it, how to package your genius. Now, that's exactly what Amanda Miller Littlejohn is here to help all of us figure out. Amanda is a writer and author of the book, Package Your Genius: 5 Steps to Build Your Most Powerful Personal Brand. She's the owner of Package Your Genius Academy that hosts workshops and courses to help you do just that. And she's a sought-after speaker. Most importantly, she's my friend, and I've worked with her clients, and I have seen firsthand the transformations she's helped facilitate. And this isn't something Amanda just teaches. She's applied all of this to her own life. So if you're tired of being in the background and you're ready to step forward, and if you want to share your skills with a broader audience, or if you're just ready to address that nagging feeling that there's more out there for you, well, you're in the right place. Well, Amanda, I'm so happy that you're joining us here today. Thank you so much. And it's so great to see you. It's been a while.
It's been a minute, and it's always good to see your face, Andrea. And I especially love seeing you in this new season of your journey.
Thank you. You've been along for the ride. We've had many
have.
talks. This was a long time coming. So absolutely. And so just the way I wanted to kind of get this conversation started is, I get a lot of messages from people, on the cusp of their next, but they don't know where to start, or they listen and they think I'm talking to somebody else. Can anyone package their genius, as you would say?
Absolutely. Not just anyone, but everyone can package their genius. I truly believe that we're all born with something that we do, and some of us have many somethings, right, that we do, that we have a unique approach, a unique perspective, a unique lens, and a unique blend of lived experiences and opportunities to make whatever that thing is whole. Like, we all have something that we do uniquely well, and we do it effortlessly. And I think, when you talk about, do I have genius? That's really that's really the crux of why it's so difficult to accept and identify your genius, is because true genius is effortless, and so we often overlook it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What holds people back? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think our culture and societal programming and conditioning is a big piece of it, right? Many people of color, women, introverts, children of immigrants, the culture that says what a woman should be, or what, a person of color should be or do, can kind of get us in this muted stance of being super humble, or just working really hard, keeping our heads down, thinking that our hard work is going to lead to something great. And I think in the midst of that, we miss um the simple things that we have access to, the simple joy of having a skill that maybe we've had since childhood, or a passion we've had since childhood, or just this knack for doing something we've had along the way. And we're really looking for our excellence and our genius in our efforting, in our working. So that's one piece, right? There's the societal thing. But then also, um, I believe true genius lies in the thing that you've been doing for so much of your life. And it's typically so close to you, or you are so close to it, that it's easy to miss. And so sometimes we need support from people on the outside mirroring back to us, what is it that I'm really great at? Or what is it that people always seem to come to me for? There's value in that. There's value in, um, what people are seeking you out for, what they're asking for your help with, and how they want to engage you, but also the things that, like, you don't even mind sharing and helping out on, because it's so effortless to you. And so I think those are the things. It's society, but also we're so close to it that it's really, really easy to miss your genius.
Let's talk about that ease, because we all like the
Mm.
struggle story. Like,
Ah.
I came and I clawed to the top,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then now I'm here, and look at, and everything takes work, but the struggle piece, you're talking so much about how this should be come easy and naturally to you. Kind of expound on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, I'm going through my own evolution, and I think as a society, we're evolving our ideas around what work means and the place it should hold in our lives. But if you were like me, you kind of grew up on the idea that the more work you threw at something, the more valuable it was, or the more effort you put forth. Just, there's sort of a sense of value in that. Like, that's where the value is. um but for me, I mean, I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands, of professionals at this point, and really, it all comes down to the thing that they were kind of overlooking all along, and it had been there the whole time, hiding in plain sight. And once I can get people to really accept that thing that is easy, that is energizing, that makes them come alive, because that's a hurdle in and of itself, like getting you to see the thing, and you accepting the fact that there's value in something that you enjoy and that makes you feel good, and it doesn't hurt, and it's not just like this thing that's like, ugh, I have to slog through it to get it done. That's the only piece of value I have to add. Getting a person to accept, like, you can be excited and looking forward to showing up every day to do this thing. And on the other side, there are people who are happy to pay you for that. Like,
Mm.
it's like a mental disconnect. But once you kind of break through that, oh, it's a beautiful space and place to be.
What are some of the questions that you're asking to that kind of leads to this aha moment?
Well, my process of inquiry really starts with like an interview of their personal story. So I'm asking them to tell me just, with no agenda really. Like, tell me your story. Tell me about your life. Tell me where you grew up. Did you have siblings? What were the different, where were you in the birth order?
Mhm.
How did you like school? What were your parents like? What did you do with them? And so I'm getting an understanding of the landscape in which they were reared, in which they first came in contact with their gifts and talents. Um, a lot of times people will share something that they used to love to do. And, invariably someone's like, oh my God, I haven't thought about that in years. I haven't thought about that in a really long time. And it may have a connection to this very practical thing that they are chasing in their professional life. Like for example, someone may say, oh, I was on like the cheerleading squad. I was like the captain of the cheer team, and I loved, going out to cheer for some of the sports that people didn't come out for, because I loved encouraging those teams. And now, like, I'm always finding myself in meetings really encouraging our junior staffers and our young professionals to speak up and share their ideas and make their voices heard. That's really important to me. And so I'm kind of looking for like the spirit of what you've always been doing, but what you've always been naturally drawn to, and how that has thematically shown up over the course of your life. And so I do it through the story. Just by listening to them tell me what they've done. And I'm not leading them. I'm literally just saying, oh, okay, well, what did you like to do? And what did you like about that? And I'm taking notes. And once I have the whole landscape of their life, the themes, it's pretty easy to see on paper. Like, it's hard, I think, to do that for yourself. But when you have, I mean, as you know, as a journalist, when you're hearing someone's story and you're taking notes, and you're thinking as a journalist, it's like, oh, that and that goes with that. And these are all kind of grouped together. And oh, you've always kind of had a thing for being out front or being on stage or performing or listening or encouraging or making things with your hands or spending time in nature or working with kids. Like, you see those themes just from hearing the story. And I think there's obviously ways that you can explore this on your own without engaging a person from the outside. Like I have tools and worksheets and workbooks and all sorts of things. But I think talking to someone and just sharing your story is a great first step.
Yeah. And this is not something that you just teach. This is something that you've done for yourself in your own life.
Yeah.
Explain how you were working at the newspaper and then what happened? Was it? And then what happened?
And then what?
And then what?
Well, so many whats. One thing was I had my first child. Another thing was my newspaper was bought by another organization, and they started cutting departments and making layoffs. And while I was on maternity leave, I kind of got swept up in that. I wasn't like outright fired, but they called and said, hey, what are you thinking about like post maternity leave? Like, how are you feeling about your role? Like, are you into it? And honestly, number one, the pay was really low. And I had this vision of my journalism career, as I know we all have, right? Like, I had my dream. I was like, okay, I'm going to start here. Then I'm going to move to the Washington Post. I'm going to get on at the Times or the New Yorker. And I'm going to do like the long form narrative, Kate Boo, Ta-Nehisi type, stories. And that journey was cut short pretty early. And I needed to, number one, make more income, but I also needed flexibility because I have this baby. And I just kind of felt like being in an office wasn't necessary for the work that I was doing. And so I literally made a list of all the people that I knew that I felt were in some way influential, people I'd met. And I just started making calls and seeing like, hey, I'm a writer. I'm looking for writing work, contract writing work. I'm not trying to come in full time. Like, you don't have to pay me benefits. I'm just literally looking for projects and flexible writing work if you need someone who's good, who's fast, and who can kind of, fold into your team when and where you need it, which I think is a pretty great proposition
Mhm.
for an agency or a small business. And honestly, it took off and it grew from there. It evolved to kind of some PR, and along the way, I realized that my passion is people. So I'm not so much a corporate communications. I don't like working on communications for something that's so big and unwieldy that I won't really get to touch the impact, right? Like, I don't get to
Mhm.
see where did I make a difference. And I found that um, people started coming to me, consultants started coming to me because they wanted to know how could they stand out and get more business. And I was really good at helping them figure out what is the niche that they could like double down on, how do they talk about their skills more powerfully, and then what spaces should they be in to become visible to the people who actually need them. And once I had done that a few times and I saw the very real impact that it could make in someone's life, in their ability to take care of their family, like, that was where I got hooked. And so I focused my work squarely on personal branding. And I've been doing that ever since.
Yeah. No, I love that. And just being able to, work with you and seeing your impact and really transforming people. Where I was working on, just for background, I was working on, Amanda has these cohorts of thought leaders that came together and got a pleasure, like just such a pleasure to meet them and seeing them at the beginning of the course and then to the end of the course. Like they were completely different people. They would come in kind of
Mhm.
whispering, and
Right.
maybe I could possibly, and then they were commanding all kinds of attention. They were getting all kinds of press. Their
Mhm.
businesses were taking off, or even if they were within corporate, they were becoming thought leaders on things, which then shifted their position in their
Mhm.
workplace. And I've seen it firsthand, and it's amazing. And it's just like a wonderful, wonderful feeling to just be a part of that. That was
Well,
just such a
thank
joy.
you. But you've also been such a big part of that too, just coming in and, talking to the students and encouraging them and sharing how that they can, get in the media and how they have something to say. I think that's a big part of it, is really helping people see what contribution they have to make to the conversation, and how this is not rocket science. Like, and we need your perspective and your voice too.
Yeah.
The news needs it, right? The media needs it. And even if people aren't calling you up or emailing you directly, like, you have the agency. You can reach out, you can say, hey, this is something I know about, this is something I want to share on, my voice is here and I'm available. The power in that, and just seeing people transform their perspective of, oh, I thought I had to be chosen. No, I can choose myself and put myself out there. So you are a big part of their success in that too. So we thank you.
Yes, thank you. It was such a joy. And it really, with this podcast, it's funny. The other day, my mom was like, well, you're back to teaching, because that's what I wanted to be when I was little. If you asked me what I
Isn't
wanted
that
to be, I wanted to
interesting?
be a teacher. And so I went into news thinking that it was my classroom. Like, this is just like, I didn't want to be in the classroom per se, but I always treated news like a classroom. Like, when I learn something, I can teach somebody else. And so working with
Right.
you, was like, oh my, no, like I still have that like fire and
Mhm.
passion there, because it gave me such joy, like such joy seeing these women win. And so then in doing this, it's kind of like, it feels the same way.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's an extension
Mhm.
of that experience where it feels the same way. So that helped me really kind of identify. I fought it for a long time. Fought it for a really long time.
Well, why? Because that's interesting. Why were you fighting your
Um,
genius?
well, because I just was like, I didn't want to, and I still don't think that I'm like a coach per se. Um, because again, journalism is like you don't tell people, you give people information and let them do with it what they will, but
Mhm.
you're not necessarily saying you should do this or you should do that. It's just like, here's the information, here it's, let's just put it out on the table and pick what from it what you will, what serves you. But especially in the last few years, like people keep coming to me about their careers, like, and I was like, y'all, I'm trying to figure this out for myself. I
So
don't know.
what are they coming to you for? Like, say
Gosh,
more.
like everything. I mean, just in terms of like how to think about it, like what the possibilities are. I will say that is a gift that I can see things like from a 10,000 foot view of like, well, if you can do this and you could do that, or you could leverage this in this kind of way. Um, I had somebody come to me about their negotiating their contract, and I had learned so much about like negotiations, and even though I don't negotiate my own stuff, like just the tactics to use and stuff like that, giving them the name of the people that I use or have used in the past to help me negotiate, but understanding, what are the leverage points, that they should really consider beyond, like, money is obviously one that everybody talks about, but the other things that they, maybe should consider. And I think it's just really just being a cheerleader for people. Like, I'm just such a cheerleader for people. Because I really do believe that people can be whatever they want. They just have to put the energy towards that direction. Um, and so I think people find a lot of comfort in talking to me about these things. And then also I'm just like really like, all right, like you want to do this, like you're not doing it right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
you're not taking, look, I'm an accountability person. Like you said you wanted to do this. And so I'm the friend where it's like if somebody says, I want to be an astronaut, I'd be like, girl, what? You want to be an astronaut? And then they'll say, I'm like, okay, fine. And then, then I'll see a course on being an astronaut and be like, girl, I saw this course.
That's all the
Look, you're
astronaut
on an
for.
astronaut course. Here you go. I don't know who made it, but people were saying good things about it. Ooh, girl, go to Target. They got a whole outfit that would be
Mhm.
good in space. It's
Yes.
only $15. Go ahead for that space outfit. Like and I'm always like looking out and saying, all right, here's, like, I might think it's absolutely crazy, whatever, but this is what you say you want to do. Here are the things. And I'd be like, did you take the class? Or, okay, you didn't take the class. What are you doing towards your thing? Time is ticking, right? Like, it's not in terms of
Right.
like speed, but it's in terms of let's not waste our life. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Let's not waste our life right
Because
now
these days are not promised.
at
None of
all.
it is. And I think that, you speak to really the urgency of packaging your genius. It's
Hmm.
like, what are you doing? What are we doing here? Anything could happen. Anything could happen to you. Do you want to go out doing something that you hate? We spend so much of our lives at work, we may as well be doing work that we find fulfilling, enjoyable, and that compensates us fairly. Like,
Yeah.
why not? And it's true, you can have that. Like, what are you doing with your life otherwise? Like, a third of your life you're asleep,
Right,
and
right,
then a
right,
third of it you're at work. So why would you spend a third? So let's say, okay, the third that you're asleep, we can't even count that because you're asleep, right? So the half of your life that you're awake,
right.
why would
No.
you be doing something that made you miserable? Especially if you knew of something that you wanted to explore, you wanted to try, you wanted to put your energy towards. Like, why wouldn't you allow yourself permission to do that, knowing that, as far as we know, this is the one life that we get? Why
Hmm.
not pursue everything that is tugging on our hearts?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that segues great into purposecaping, that the term that
Mm.
you've coined. And I love what you put on Instagram that you said self-actualization through seasons, clearing paths to purpose. What is the work of this season? Explain what purposecaping is.
So purposecaping is it's a philosophy really that I started thinking through as the work of personal branding began to evolve for me, especially working with clients who were like early, mid career, mid management professionals, and then working with, you know, even more seasoned professionals who had done all the things, won all the stuff, won awards, gotten the promotions, gotten the salaries they dreamed of, or grown the businesses to the levels that they initially thought was like the holy grail. Like, oh my God, once I get there, I've made it. And then once they get to this space of making it, there's still a sense of, well, I want more. This is not enough, or there is more for me. And so purposecaping evolved to help us examine in many ways the same ways that like package your genius does, but to help us examine the seasonal pattern. So like if you look at your life, you know, the story of your life from childhood, what have been the major seasons and the major lessons of each season,
Mhm.
and what can you take away, but also what is becoming even more refined and more specific along this journey. It's all about like pulling away, tearing away, clearing the path, clearing what doesn't matter or what is not as important to us, because I think we get information as we go along in our journey. Like every year, like the thing that you thought was important or most important 10 years ago, I'm sure is not the thing that's most
Mhm.
important today. So as we live, we're able to kind of refine the vision that we have for our purpose. And so the idea of purposecaping is that it's a journey that never ends. We get closer and closer and closer, like the emblem of purposecaping is a spiral. So it's like you're spiraling up to this point of specificity where that's the self-actualization, but we're spiraling up year after year, season after season, getting more information, getting clearer, and that path gets narrower and narrower the more information we collect about ourselves and the more lessons that we learn. And so the actions of purposecaping are really all about learning to trust your intuition, um, learning to hear that internal wisdom and guidance, up leveling your self image, because oftentimes the self image that you walk into the room with is the one from a decade ago. And it's like, wait a
Mm.
minute, you've accomplished all of these things, you've done all these things, you are a boss. Like, you're walking in like the entry level person when you are the senior exec. Like, you are the boss and you need to carry it that way. And so it's a fun thing. I have a capsule podcast out there where I talk to my grandmother about, you know, all the different things we can learn from nature, and what happens each season, at least in this hemisphere of summer, fall, winter, spring, and how we can prepare ourselves for each season and how we can kind of apply that lens to our lives. So I hope that answered your questions. It's a
Yes.
little I really nerd out when I talk
No, I
about
love
purposecaping.
it. I love it. And I think that sometimes people think that like that type of conversation or those types like that introspection is only reserved for like entrepreneurship, but it really isn't, you know,
Mhm.
like why is it important for people like in all stages, like to really start having these conversations with themselves and, you know, really have an entrepreneurial mindset while you have your job. Doesn't mean you'll ever be an entrepreneur, but really just having this entrepreneurial mindset of I can have an idea and go create it. Why is it important for you to do that even if you have a job?
because this is your life.
Mhm.
This is your life. And also, just from a spiritual perspective, I truly believe that, and that's a part of getting, learning to strengthen your ability to sense, feel, hear your intuition. Spiritually speaking, I believe that our ideas and a lot of the little like things that dance across our consciousness, that is the spirit or God or your higher power communicating with you. You know, you think you had a random idea, well, where do you think that came from? Right, like, and I really do believe in listening to the spiritual information that we're receiving. You know, you think about coincidences and things that happen. It's like, wow, how did those events line up for this particular moment to occur, or this opportunity to come to me at this time? And I think that when we have ideas, whether we have a job or not, when we have these things that are tugging at us, these things that are calling us to step away and try to do, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to end everything we're doing at work. It just means there's another part of us that we can rise to explore. There's more for us to experience. And I think we should take advantage of everything that's here for us.
Yeah.
Why not? I think we feel fully alive when we do that. And I'll say something else about this. I've been playing with this idea of like, where we can kind of see where the gaps are in our lives when it comes to like our needs and meaning. Whenever I'm looking at something new that I'm building into my schedule, because you know we're all so busy and
Mm.
time is of the essence, I'm like, okay, is this going to fulfill my needs from an income perspective, an influence perspective, an impact perspective? And if I'm like, okay, it's income and that's the job that it has, right? Like, this is something I'm doing. I can do it well. It's fine. And it's bringing me income because I need income, but that's it. That's fine. I think a lot of times people get caught up in trying to force one role, one project, one client, one area of their life to fulfill all the buckets when that's not necessarily true. So for me, I do thought leadership and personal brand coaching work for clients, and that brings me income, and it's really fulfilling work, and I love to do it.
Mhm.
I also write essays. I love writing essays. They pay nothing. But I love it. You know, it makes me so, so happy. And that's something I need for me. And it's okay that my essays don't pay my bills. I don't need them to pay my bills. I don't need them to bring in the income when they're bringing me impact, or they're helping me kind of join the conversation that I want to be a part of nationally and internationally, and giving me that influence. And then giving back, volunteering, obviously that's not generating any income, and it may not even make me influential, but it it fuels and feeds a need for me to be of service and to offer back my gifts in some way, right? And I think a lot of times things like our podcast or the books that we write can serve that purpose and fill that need as well. You love doing it, you love being of service and helping people and using your talents to do that. Maybe it's making you an income too, maybe not.
Maybe
And
not.
it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have to if there are other parts kind of in your other categories that you can use to fill and hit those needs and fill those buckets up.
I'm so glad you said that. I think that's really important. I really, really think that's really important. And just looking at the things serving their very specific needs. And everything doesn't need to be all the things. And so, and
Sometimes you'll get something that does do all three or does two of the three. But I think we have to be realistic about, like, if you have a job that pays you well and it kind of fits well into your life, and you're feeling you wish you were doing something more creative, maybe you need a creative outlet to add, to layer on top of that. But don't necessarily feel like, you know, your job is the one thing that's going to fill all those buckets. 'Cause it's
yeah,
just not always the case.
yeah. Yeah, earlier you were talking about how you were kind of navigating a new season for yourself. Do you mind sharing just in terms of um, what conversations you're having with yourself in this new space and new season?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually one of them. That was how I got to the point of like, well, where does my writing fit into all of this? Right? Like there was a point where I thought to myself, should I stop doing personal branding in the academy and then try to become this like, you know, author journalist who does this all the time? And I really like my work. I really like helping people get clear on their gifts and figure out how to make those gifts more visible. And so that didn't make sense to me that I would have to discard this one part of myself. But I honestly wondered, Andrea, you know, am I like, what's the story I'm telling about myself if I'm doing the personal branding, but I also want to be this essayist? Like, can I do both? Should I stop doing this so I can do that? Well, this doesn't really pay that much money. So, and I have very, very real bills. Right? Like, I got some real bills. And so I think the negotiation that I made was, what is it that I'm looking for from each way that I'm spending my time? And what am I okay with each of these activities giving me if they give me nothing else, so long as I am getting, you know, my needs met in these other places. So like even inner joy is a category that I feel. And if I write an essay and it starts a conversation and I get to connect with people and you know, share something that resonates with people, and they say to me, wow, I never thought about that, or I've always thought about that, but I didn't know how to say it. Like that is the thing that I chase. I love. That's what I live for, is when I'm able to articulate kind of that inner conversation that you don't even have the words to put to.
Mhm.
Right. And then I bring it out into the open and we can talk about it together. I love that. Like I live for that.
It's like that Washington Post article that you had about Black
Yeah.
women being tired of, yeah,
Yes.
that was like,
Yeah.
I got it sent to me from somebody else, and I was like, oh my God, I know her. Oh my God, I know her.
I think I'm also in a season of motherhood where I have backburnered so much of myself for so many years. Similarly to the themes of the article, it's because, you know, in a lot of ways, that's what mothers are told to do. They're told to put their ambitions, you know, their creative urges and all of these things on the back burner in service of their children. And I'm at a point where my older children are older. I do have a daughter, a toddler now, so we're kind of starting over. But even as it relates to her, I'm just no longer willing to be on pause, right? Like, I
Mhm.
think I can be a responsible parent who earns a living that supports her family, and also be an artist, be a creative person who contributes her voice in a creative way and contributes to the conversation in a way that may not be incredibly lucrative yet, but is incredibly lucrative spiritually for me. And I
Mhm.
need that. And
Mhm.
I'm no longer willing to put that on hold. And so that's the conversation that I've been having with me. Like, how can we make room for you and whatever this dream of yours ends up being, right? Like, it's worth it to explore, it's worth it to chase. So I'm living this. I teach it, but I also am living it. This is my purposecaping journey, right?
Mhm.
Like getting to the point where, yes, I know how to do this thing really well, but there's this frontier that I want to pick back up from where I left it after that journalism layoff. I want to pick that up and see where it goes, not necessarily because I want to become famous or I want to become wealthy from that. Like, I know how to make money, I know how to support myself, but I still want to tell stories. I still want to share what's been put on my heart to share. And I'm carving out more and more room these days to do that. And I think that's an important journey, and I can't wait to tell you where it leads.
I love it. I love it. The last segment of the show I call ACT UP, ACT. Those are my initials. And it's just somebody who's like, all right, I've listened to the whole thing. And what's the one thing they could do today to get them closer to where they want to be?
I would have a conversation with myself. And I mean, I like to couch these things, in a sensory experience that's meaningful for you. So for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to put on some Robert Glasper. I'm going to make a nice cup of coffee. I'm going to, have the lighting just right. And I'm going to have a little journaling session. For you, it might be a cocktail. You might want to go outside. I don't know. But get in an environment that's inspiring and supportive to you. And I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. Number one, when you think about the last year of your life, what have been the experiences that have been most energizing to you, and why? Who have been the people who you felt most energized around, and why? What are some of the moments that you are most proud of from this past year that you want to take into future years, right? Like, if you could keep doing that or having those experiences, what would that experience be if you could just like put it on repeat? Then I want you to think about how people receive you, how the world receives you. In the last year, what have you found that people keep asking for your help with? You, Andrea, kind of gave us yours, which is career help. How do I negotiate this? How do I look at my career? So what are people coming to you asking for your help with? And then what are people saying thank you for? Right? That can give us a window into the value we are already creating and adding for people that we're not even aware of. And I think it's important to both examine your energy, but to also think about what the world is seeing, because together those really create a more accurate picture of how you're showing up. And I think that will give you the clarity on what is that thing that you might want to explore, and then just do some research, whatever that looks like. Like, how do you want to, is this something that you want to make a business? Is this something that you want to maybe just make a passion project? Are you yearning to connect with other people? Are you yearning to share? Kind of try to get to the heart of what it is that's missing for you. Is it the fact that you feel like your voice isn't being heard? And if you were being heard, that would be fine. Is it that you really would like the experience of earning some additional income and you want to package something that you can sell? Do you want to bring people together because you know a ton of people who don't know one another and you want to convene people? Like, what is it that is missing for you? And then how do you connect that to the points of energy and the value that you're adding to folks already?
That's gold. All of that is gold. And to get
I'll take it.
it is gold, so actionable. And for people who want to work with you, want to learn more about what you do, how can we follow you and support you? All of that good stuff.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm on LinkedIn, so find me, Amanda Miller Littlejohn. I'm also on Instagram. I am Amanda Miller Littlejohn. You can go to my website, amandamillerlittlejohn.com, to send me a note or to, grab some time on my calendar to figure out, if there is a way that we can connect. But I have a ton of resources out there. I have a book, Package Your Genius. It's on Amazon, and a companion workbook. So those are tools that you can get started with on your own right away. But I welcome the opportunity to connect with you and just follow your journey. So, send me a message. Let me know that you found me through this amazing podcast so that we can be in conversation and community.
Yes, and we'll put all of that in the show notes and the details of the episode. And I have seen again firsthand how you have transformed people's lives from their confidence to them getting so many more opportunities. So it has been fun to watch. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of that program and just for all your wisdom that you share. I just really, really appreciate
Thank you, and likewise.
it.
Seriously, I mean that.